Well, I think Harry is a very complicated person because he's not very intelligent and undoubtedly remains damaged by the early death of his mother.
Tom Bower is widely seen as one of the most outspoken and critical royal biographers, known for presenting claims that challenge the official narrative of the monarchy. But now, Bower has reportedly made even more striking assertions about the state of Harry and Meghan's marriage. These claims are so intense that they are hard to believe. So, what really happened behind the scenes of the most watched royal wedding in a generation? Join us as we reveal the dark secrets Tom Bower uncovered that will change the way you see that wedding forever. Camilla and Spencer's initial reservation. Before the royal wedding ever happened, there were already quiet warnings behind palace doors. Music, and one of the most significant voices, came from someone deeply tied to the family. Earl Spencer, the younger brother of Princess Diana and uncle to Prince Harry. According to accounts written by Tom Bower, concerns about the speed and intensity of Harry's relationship with Meghan Markle had already begun to circulate within the inner circle. But the story of how Spencer became interested in the relationship in the first place is just fascinating. The story goes that Prince William, Harry's older brother, was uneasy about how quickly things were moving. Wanting someone Harry trusted to step in, he reportedly turned to Spencer to have a private conversation with his nephew. Spencer, who had experienced his own rocky personal life and had witnessed firsthand the pressures placed on Diana within the royal institution, agreed to speak honestly. When the two sat down, Spencer allegedly urged Harry to slow down and reconsider whether he truly knew Meghan well enough to take such a life-altering step. But instead of being received as a concern, the warning reportedly landed badly. Harry was said to be offended, interpreting the advice as criticism music rather than caution. What might have been intended as protective guidance quickly became another point of tension. In hindsight, biographers like Bower frame this moment as an early fracture, one of several that would widen over time as Harry tried to establish Meghan's place within a system that had long operated by its own rigid expectations. And Spencer wasn't the only one quietly forming opinions. Not long after, in 2017, Harry brought Meghan into one of the most traditional settings of royal life. And that was a shooting weekend at Sandringham. These gatherings are more than just social events. They're subtle tests of how well someone fits into the rhythms and unspoken rules of the royal circle. According to the same accounts, Meghan's presence stood out immediately. Rather than blending into the carefully maintained ease of the occasion, she was described as openly challenging conversations she disagreed with, pushing back on remarks and disrupting the usual flow of polite interaction. Among those observing was Queen Camilla, who had spent decades navigating the complexities of royal life herself. As Bower tells it, Camilla came away from that weekend with a clear impression. She found it difficult to imagine Meghan adapting to the kind of quiet, restrained role the monarchy often demands. It wasn't a public judgment. Nothing was said openly, but it was, in this version of events, a moment of quiet realization. Looking back, narratives like this are often framed as foreshadowing. Within just a few years, Harry and Meghan would step away from royal duties entirely, reshaping their roles on their own terms. To some observers and writers, those early conversations and first impressions now feel like warning signs that went unheeded. And it doesn't end there. In fact, there's more that Bower revealed in his book. So keep watching The Vanity Fair story. Another shocking revelation from Tom Bower's book centers on a pivotal moment in 2017 when Meghan Markle music stepped into the global spotlight in a way that, according to his account, was never meant to unfold the way it did. Months before her engagement to Prince Harry was officially announced, Meghan agreed to a major magazine profile with Vanity Fair. What followed would become one of the most talked about media moments of their early relationship and, if Bower is to be believed, one of the most misunderstood from her perspective. To the public, the article appeared polished and perfectly timed. It presented a confident, composed Meghan openly acknowledging her relationship with Harry, describing their happiness and signaling a new chapter in her life. The headline quickly spread across the world, igniting intense media attention and pushing their relationship firmly into the global conversation. It looked on the surface like a carefully orchestrated debut. But Bower paints a very different picture behind the scenes. According to his version of events, Meghan had entered the interview with a completely different goal in mind. She reportedly expected the focus to remain on her work, her humanitarian efforts, advocacy, and growing identity beyond acting. Instead, during the course of the conversation, the focus shifted. The journalist Sam Kashner steered the discussion toward her relationship with Harry, particularly after Meghan became more open during a relaxed portion of the meeting. From that point on, the direction of the piece was set. What emerged was not the profile Meghan allegedly envisioned, but one that centered heavily on her romance with a prince. And that shift, according to Bauer, had immediate consequences. Within royal circles, the reaction was said to be far from positive. There are long-standing unspoken rules about how and when relationships are publicly acknowledged, especially within the royal family. This interview, coming before any formal announcement, was seen by some as breaking with music that tradition. Bauer claims the fallout behind closed doors was intense. Meghan was reportedly upset with how the story framed her, believing it failed to reflect the image she wanted to present to the world. At the same time, the palace was said to be frustrated by the lack of coordination and the sudden surge of attention the article generated. What should have been a controlled introduction instead became a flashpoint. In hindsight music, this moment is often framed as more than just a media misstep. It highlighted a deeper tension between personal branding and institutional expectations. Meghan, coming from a world where public narrative can be shaped and directed, music was now stepping into an environment where that control was far more limited. The clash between those two realities would continue to surface in the years that followed, making this early episode feel less like an isolated incident and more like the beginning of a much larger struggle. The Kate crying row and what really happened. Another shocking detail about the royal wedding drama centers on one of the most talked about moments in modern royal history: the alleged fallout between Meghan Markle and Catherine, Princess of Wales, in the days leading up to the 2018 weddings. It's a story music that has been told in completely different ways depending on who you listen to. And that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. During the now famous opera music Winfrey interview with Meghan and Harry, Meghan revealed that it was Kate who made her cry during a disagreement about bridesmaids' dresses. Music she explained that the situation had been reported incorrectly in the media, flipped to make it seem like she was the one who caused Kate distress. According to Meghan, Kate later apologized with flowers and a handwritten note. And Meghan chose not to correct the public narrative at the time because she didn't want to harm Kate's reputation. That moment, she said, marked a turning point, one that left her feeling isolated and unsupported within the royal institution. But here's where things take a dramatic turn. A completely different version of events emerged from accounts attributed to Tom Bauer, whose reporting suggested the opposite happened: that it was Meghan who made Kate cry. According to these claims, the disagreement centered on details like the fit of Princess Charlotte's dress and whether the young bridesmaid should wear tights. Kate, who had recently given birth, was reportedly exhausted, music, and emotional. In the middle of the dispute, Meghan allegedly made a comment comparing Charlotte unfavorably to another child in the wedding party. That moment, according to this version, brought Kate to tears. Two women, two completely different stories, and no clear way to prove which music one is true. What makes the situation so compelling isn't just the disagreement itself, but what it represents. It wasn't Snorts really about dresses or tights. It was about communication, perception, and the way stories are shaped before the public ever hears them. Meghan's account is firsthand, but it came years later in a controlled interview setting. Bauer's account relies on unnamed sources, which makes it harder to verify but still influential. The truth likely sits somewhere in the middle, shaped by emotion, stress, and misunderstanding. But to the public, it became something much bigger, a symbol of a deeper divide forming behind palace walls. And once that divide entered the media, it took on a life of its own. Now here comes the interesting part: the Sandringham warning. One of the most serious claims from Bauer's book involves Lady Susan Hussey, a longtime confidant of Queen Elizabeth II and someone deeply embedded in royal life for decades. According to reports, during a seemingly ordinary conversation about future royal roles, Hussey suddenly became serious and made a chilling prediction. She reportedly said Harry and Meghan's relationship will all end in tears.